Welcome back to part 4, and this is honestly the last the last part of why I think, or the last video I should say that I want to do, because this is the fourth part, I guess I should say, about basketball. So, why do I think Mount Vernon can compete for the top spot? Well, honestly, I think Mount Vernon can compete for at least the number 4 seed in the Crossroads League because for one reason, obviously the University of St. Francis, they are losing 2 very key players that were a part of their team the last 4 years, guard Savannah Buck and guard Kayla Gurka. And that is why I think Mount Vernon can at least compete for the 4 seed. I just do not see St. Francis being as good this upcoming year, losing Buck and Gurka. So that's why I think, honestly, not really what I think, but honestly, why I am pretty sure that Mount Vernon is going to be a lot better. Then, of course, you have Taylor University, and I talked about them in the last video about Abby and Becca Books and just how much they contributed to the Taylor Trojan offense this past season. And with them gone, I really think that opens the door for Mount Vernon to be able to beat them, and we haven't defeated them since early 2017. So we're on a 7-game losing streak versus them. And I really think that we are going to get that win against them coming up later this year. And of course, like I've said in all these videos, it's dependent on COVID-19 and what the NAIA decides to do by July 1st. And then, of course, you have Marion. Now, Marion is going to be the toughest opponent that Mount Vernon will play. Now, do I think Mount Vernon can beat Marion? Absolutely. But it's going to be very, very tough because Marion has 2 returning students, Macy Willoughby and Abby Downard, who are their 2 leading scorers for the past season. So I think Mount Vernon is going to have a much more difficult time trying to not really compete with Marion, but try and be consistent on offense, not turn the ball over, not being afraid to attack the basket, or not being afraid to drive the lane against Marion's defense, because Marion's defense is very, very tough. They really, really are. I mean, they can play man-to-man, they can play zone defense, they can do it all. So I really think that Marion is going to be the most interesting opponent that Mount Vernon will play this upcoming season for those reasons. And then, of course, Indiana Wesleyan. Now, Indiana Wesleyan was a team that Mount Vernon beat back in November at home in Mount Vernon, Ohio. Only the second time in program history that Mount Vernon defeated IWU, and the very first time against, the second time against Coach Short. The first time was back in 2016/17 season at Indiana Wesleyan. Mount Vernon won that game 71-69. And Indiana Wesleyan, they're a really good team. I mean, they have Dayton Groninger, they have Ann Seacrest, who of course transferred from Youngstown State. And now, can Mount Vernon defeat IWU? Now, I believe they can. They defeated them back in November. I think they can really defeat them now. And then, of course, you have Huntington University. Huntington was a team that Mount Vernon was not able to defeat this past season, and I really think that they can definitely defeat them now, and here's why. Aaron Moore, senior, who graduated, and Sarah Fryman, who was Huntington's leading scorer with over 20 points a game on average, also graduated. Now, with all that being said, Huntington, I think, is still going to be tough because they have a girl that is transferring from a Division I university. So I think the key for Mount Vernon against Huntington is going to be to not turn the ball over. They cannot turn the ball over against Huntington because Huntington is a team that is very, very aggressive on defense. They can definitely score the ball in a multitude of ways. They can run up and down the floor. They can attack the basket. They can drive the lane. And so I think that Mount Vernon definitely can beat Huntington this year. They definitely can. But they got to be aggressive. Mount Vernon has got to be aggressive. They got to drive the lane. They have to not be afraid to take open shots. Now, granted, you don't want to take a bad shot, but you also don't want to be called for an offensive foul. In the next part, I will talk with you more about the few remaining teams that I think Mount Vernon can beat this year and why.